An empire is about to be built in a space smaller than your hand. She falls from the sky alone, a newly mated queen ant, carrying the future inside her body. Moments ago, she rode warm air above the forest. Now, she searches the ground for a place to disappear. There will be no second flight, no rescue, no army waiting. She digs, grain by grain. She tunnels into the earth until daylight fades into absolute darkness. The surface world vanishes. Predators, wind, rain, all replaced by soil pressing in from every side. Then comes the irreversible choice. She twists and tears off her own wings. Those powerful flight muscles will become her only food. She will survive by slowly consuming herself. Sealed inside this tiny chamber, she lays her first fragile eggs, motionless except for the faint rhythm of survival. If mold creeps in, if the soil shifts, if her strength fails, everything ends here. But if they hatch, this silent grave becomes the foundation of a living empire. If the eggs survive, the real miracle begins beneath the soil. From those fragile larvae emerge the first workers, pale, blind, and tireless. They are born into darkness, yet they already carry the blueprint of something extraordinary. Because the queen did not come alone. Hidden within her body was a living fragment of fungus, preserved from her birth colony like a dowry for a future kingdom. The workers carefully retrieve that tiny thread and plant it inside a protected chamber. Then they climb. For the first time, the colony touches the surface world. Workers march upward through narrow tunnels and fan out across the forest floor. They cut fresh leaves with jaws sharp as scissors, slicing perfect crescents and hauling them underground. The leaves are not food for the ants. They are food for the fungus. Inside the humid chambers, workers chew the leaves into pulp and spread it like fertile soil. The fungus grows, branching into a living garden. This crop will feed every larva, every soldier, even the queen herself. An underground civilization has just begun farming its future. As the fungus gardens thrive, the colony explodes in number. What began as a sealed chamber no larger than a fist now expands into a labyrinth beneath the forest floor. Tunnels branch outward. Chambers multiply. Within months, thousands become hundreds of thousands. In time, they will number in the millions. Growth demands precision. Not all workers are the same. Some remain small, tending delicate fungus strands and grooming larvae with meticulous care. Others grow larger, built for labor. And then there are the giant soldiers with armored heads and crushing jaws, standing guard at every entrance. Above ground, the workforce becomes a moving river. Workers climb tree trunks rising over 40 meters high, navigating bark and branches with unwavering focus. Their mandibles slice through fresh leaves in clean, deliberate arcs. Each fragment can outweigh the ant carrying it. Still, they march downward in endless lines, green sails fluttering above their bodies. Load after load disappears underground. This is no random swarm. It is a coordinated agricultural machine, expanding, adapting, and reshaping the forest itself. Deep below the forest, the empire reaches its peak. At the center of this vast underground city lies the queen, no longer a solitary survivor, but the living engine of millions. Her body has transformed. Her abdomen swells to several times its original size, pulsing with constant production. She no longer digs, hunts, or moves freely. She lays eggs, endlessly. Workers surround her in a living circle. They clean her, feed her, carry away each newly laid egg within seconds. The chamber hums with quiet efficiency. Around her, fungus gardens stretch through connected vaults, carefully regulated for temperature and humidity. Every leaf harvested above now flows into this system, converted into nourishment for larvae and strength for soldiers. The queen may never see the surface again, yet through her, the forest above is subtly reshaped. Trails widen, trees are pruned, Entire patches of vegetation thin under relentless harvesting. This is not chaos. It is a superorganism at full power, disciplined, synchronized, and built to endure. But no empire grows without resistance. Above ground, the forest begins to answer. Some trees, scarred by relentless harvesting, release chemical defenses into their leaves. Invisible toxins seep into the cut fragments carried below. At first, nothing seems different. Then the fungus reacts. Growth slows. Pale patches spread through the garden like bruises. Workers rush to remove contaminated pulp, but the damage can outpace their precision. The colony's lifeline is under attack, and the threat does not end there. In the humid understory, a parasitic fungus waits. Its spores cling to passing workers and slip through microscopic openings in their exoskeleton. Days later, behavior shifts. An infected ant abandons the trail, climbs vegetation, and locks its jaws in a final grip. The parasite consumes it from within, then erupts from its body to release a new cloud of spores. The forest is not passive. It pushes back with chemistry and infection, testing whether this underground empire can adapt or collapse. While the leafcutter empire battles toxins and disease, another force moves through the forest with a different strategy entirely. They do not farm. They do not build permanent cities. They march. Army ants emerge in numbers that seem unreal columns stretching for meters, millions strong. The ground itself appears to ripple as they advance. There is no single entrance to defend, no central chamber to protect. Their colony is alive and mobile. At night, they link their bodies together, forming living walls and temporary bivouacs made entirely of ants. By dawn, the structure dissolves, and the hunt begins again. Nothing in their path is ignored. Insects, spiders, small reptiles, anything too slow is overwhelmed. Their coordinated raids can span 10 meters wide, sweeping the forest floor with relentless precision. Individually small, together unstoppable. Where leafcutters cultivate stability, army ants embody motion and conquest. And when a roaming supercolony crosses the scent trails of a thriving leafcutter empire, the forest prepares for collision. The collision is sudden. Scouts from the army ants intercept the chemical trails leading to the leafcutter nest. Within minutes, the signal spreads through the moving swarm. Direction shifts. The raid front narrows. They surge toward the underground entrances like a living tide. Leafcutter soldiers respond instantly. Massive-headed defenders lock their jaws at tunnel mouths, forming armored barricades. Workers rush larvae deeper into protected chambers. The air fills with alarm pheromones, invisible commands that trigger total mobilization. Then the lines meet. Army ants flood forward in waves, relying on sheer numbers. Leafcutter soldiers counter with crushing bites, designed to sever bodies in a single snap. The ground becomes a battlefield of grappling forms, each side driven by instinct older than the forest itself. Losses mount quickly, but neither colony fights for territory alone. They fight for survival, for fungus gardens, for brood, for a future written in scent and sacrifice. When the waves finally recede, the forest floor grows still again. Army ants move on, carrying fragments of their victory. The leafcutter colony remains, but the cost is scattered across the soil. Bodies lie tangled near tunnel entrances, a silent reminder of how close collapse came. Inside, another task begins. Older workers step forward. They drag the fallen into refuse chambers, far from the fungus gardens. Decomposition is dangerous here. Spores bloom quickly in warm, humid air. Contamination could destroy everything the colony depends on. These aging ants do not return to the brood chambers. Many remain within the waste vaults, exposed to infection, knowing their immune defenses are already weaker. One by one, they succumb in isolation. It is not dramatic, it is not mourned, but their sacrifice shields the living heart of the empire, proving that even in insects, survival sometimes demands quiet surrender. Time does what conflict cannot. Within weeks, the fungus gardens begin to recover. Fresh leaves flow steadily underground again. New larvae replace the fallen. The tunnels hum with quiet industry, as if the battle were only a passing storm. At the colony's center, something shifts. Select larvae are fed differently richer portions. Careful attention. They grow larger than workers, developing wings folded tightly against their bodies. These are the future queens and males, the next generation destined for the sky. One humid evening, after heavy rain softens the soil, they will rise together in a synchronized flight. Most will perish. A few will land, dig, and repeat the ancient gamble. Far away, the army ants continue their restless march. They do not remember the last raid. They do not need to. Their columns will cross these scent trails again someday. And when they do, the forest will test both empires once more. Empires don't always rise in the light. Sometimes, they begin in silence beneath our feet. These ants remind us that survival is built on cooperation, adaptation, and relentless purpose. Strength alone is never enough. The future belongs to those who adjust and endure. If this hidden world changed how you see nature, subscribe and keep exploring with us, because the wild is closer than you think.